Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today we're looking at a Decidueye Ninetales Lost Thunder deck. It's the deck that a previous world champion, Shintaro Ito, actually finished 17th placed with in the Champions League in Tokyo. So it's good. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Let's jump into the basic concepts. Well, we've seen this pairing before. We used to have the old Ninetales and Decidueye deck because you gained Beacon, which gave you good early game to start searching out your dudes, and the Ninetales also had Water typing, which helped out against things like Volcanion back in the day. And now we have another new Ninetales, which offers a whole new type coverage, and being a nice fairy type, it also has that same spreading, sniping style attack. So it does just mold really nicely with Decidueye. And it even comes with that insane ability, which is going to let us go crazy into rare candies. At least that's the idea. So let's have a look at the Pokemon line. I'm playing a 4-1-4 line of Decidueye. Now, I know Shintaro played a 4-0-4, but I think that's a little bit too cheeky. I still like having one Dartrix in here, because at the end of the day, we are playing a Super Boost, spoilers. So getting as many Decidueye is always the goal. Although we are able to hit our rare candies much more often in this list, thanks to the Alolan Ninetales GX, I think having one backup Dartrix is no bad thing. So yeah, really thick line of the Decidueye GX. We want to get as many of him on board as possible. Feather Arrow racks up great damage counters. It combines with both Alolan Ninetales GX's attacks for sniping, and we're going to be trying to pick off big threats on the board throughout the game. He also has 2 attacks of his own. Razor Leaf for a grass and 2 colors just as a flat 90. Grass typing isn't the best for hitting much for weakness right now. It would only be things like Lapras GX is the big one that comes to mind. Maybe a couple others out there right now, but it also has the nice Hollow Hunt GX attack. You get to put 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand. This can be really good for getting back some key resources that we play in this deck. There are some important 1 and 2 obs that we want to recycle, and our energy count is also fairly cheeky, so getting these sorts of resources back via the Hollow Hunt is a great option for us. But bear in mind, we do actually have 2 other GX attack options via both Ninetales, so we won't use it every game, but in certain situations you can get back key resources, which is definitely something to note. From there, we're going to play 3 copies of Alolan Vulpix, obviously a fantastic lead. Everything wants to retreat into this early game so we can get beaconing, find our Decidueyes, find our Swampert, which is a key one of a lot of the time. You can also find like Lele's or Fairy Alolan Ninetales to get us out of bad hands as well. So Beacon is really integral for keeping this deck ticking over nicely. And then it does also evolve into both Alolan Ninetales. So we all know what the Water one does. Ice Blade is fantastic. It does 50 for a DC to any of your opponent's Pokemon. This is also kind of a tech option that I've put in here for Blacephalon. I expect it to be very popular. Not only can we Ice Blade and Feather Arrow to deal with their Poipoles early on, if you can slap a Choice Band on the active, your Alolan Ninetales is doing 160 to the active. So again, Feather Arrowing onto Blacephalons to finish them off is going to be fantastic for you, and they have to spend a lot of energy just to get over it. So I really like this as a one-of tech to improve your Blacephalon matchup, because otherwise, yes, the sort of Fairy Alolan Ninetales still does a good amount of damage, but it's 2 attachments, and I feel like it can fall behind too often. So I like having a nice Water-type attacker in Alolan Ninetales to improve that matchup. It also has the Ice Path GX attack, move all damage counters from this Pokemon to your opponent's active. So it, again, can slow the opponent down, force Guzmas, stuff like that if they can't one-hit KO Alolan Ninetales. So it can be an awkward Pokemon for certain decks to get over. It does have Blizzard Edge, but we don't actually have the energy to pay for that cost. So it's just the 2 DC attacks that we'd be looking for with this guy. Then we have the new amazing Alolan Ninetales GX. 200 hit points on this one. Fairy typing is great for dealing with Rayquazas, and also Ultra Malamar and stuff like that. So that typing's great for us. It has this Mysterious Lead ability, which is just so huge for this deck. Once during a turn, when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may search your deck for 2 item cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So a lot of the time, we're going to be digging for rare candies or timables to be looking to make those combos happen and build us into Decidueyes. It can also fish out some interesting one-of tool cards that we're playing, like Counter Gain is a big one, so that our first attack and second attack even can be paid for just 1 fairy energy alongside the Counter Gain itself. because, you know, we are a big evolving deck. We will be looking to beacon to get our setup going. We will typically fall behind, so that's definitely something to bear in mind. This ability is absolutely insane for getting set up in the first place, but also pulling out some key one-offs in certain situations, which is great. A White Silver Wind for a Fairy Colorless, which I just mentioned, does 70 and 30 to 1 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it's like a mini Night Spear. And I emphasize mini because we have Feather Arrow on top of that, so it goes a lot higher, and it still is hugely threatening. Like I said, its typing is nice. It has a pretty solid resistance to Dark as well, to be a little bit more tanky against Zoroark, so they can't find any real way of ramping up to 1-hit KOs. This Alolan Ninetales will be sticking around against them, which is a real pain, because we are going to be doing this really frustrating spreading. It also has a GX attack option, Sublimation GX. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an Ultra Beast, it is knocked out. Pretty simple stuff. Going to really help out against Buzzwole. Going to help out against Blacephalon as well. So although we are playing the Water one to improve that matchup, we can still chip in with the Fairy one just to get a big GX attack in there. I feel like it definitely is important to improve our Buzz Rock matchup. Although Decidueye can hit for weakness against them, we get one Sublimation GX attack off, but then the other couple prizes that we're looking for here and there are going to have to be sort of built up towards via lots of Feather Arrows and stuff like that. So bear those things in mind. That Sublimation GX, huge for Ultra Beast matchups, which there are quite a few of, to be fair, going forward. For the rest of the Pokemon, playing a cheeky 101 line of Swampert. Thanks to this Mysterious Lead ability, we can hopefully search out our Swampert quite quickly, and even Rare Candy at the same time. So fingers crossed we can get this guy going, because his Power Draw ability is going to be great for us to keep this deck ticking over and finding more pieces throughout the game. It also can attack. Hydro Pump, does 80 plus 20 more times the amount of water energy attached to this Pokemon. I've already mentioned Super Boost, which is amazing. Again, we're hugely increasing our Blacephalon matchup if we can just get one Super Boost attachment onto a Swampert and take a knockout. That's absolutely absurdly ridiculous and will be really hard for them to come back from. But we also play DCs and stuff, so even if you want to slowly build up to a Hydro Pump, we are playing Choice Bands, so we can reach knockouts if we're hitting for weakness with him as well. But most of all, he's going to be in here for giving us some extra draws throughout the game. A couple copies of Tapu Lele. One to tag is obviously going to be important for us. Looking to get Elm, especially to get multiple Rowletts and Vulpix down early on, even Mudkip to an extent. So these Leles are going to be huge, and also we play DCEs, so Energy Drive is always a threat, especially when you have Feather Arrow to increase that damage output. And finally, one other tech attacker is going to be the Larvitar, also from the new set. It has that second strike attack, which does 10 base. If the opponent's active has 3 or more counters on it, you do 70 more damage. So we're trying to hit for weakness, specifically on Zoroark GXs here to improve that matchup. Obviously, we have some good spreading options for early game, sort of disrupting the amount of the Zorua as they get going in the first place, but Larvitar can come in and swing and do a very good amount of damage against Zoroarks. If you have that Choice Band, you're finishing them off, so that's going to be incredible for you. A great tech for what is going to be a very popular archetype overall. Onto the item cards. I've tried to simplify it a little bit from Shintaro's list. He was playing a couple of interesting one-offs. He was playing like one-off copy of Field Blower, one-off copy of an energy searching card, a couple copies of Enhanced Hammer. I wanted to strip that back a lot and just have as much search as possible, because we are very focused on our setup. So I want to make sure that we have 2 rescue stretchers to recycle our Pokemon as much as possible. Obviously, whenever you get a Vulpix down, you're happy to evolve it into either option for you. Going to be great for recovering Larvitar in the matchup where you need it, giving you options to use that Swampert even if Mudkip gets picked off. I think it's an important 2 count. Going to play 1 copy of Netball, not Nestball. Netball can only obviously get you Rowletts, but it's also great for getting you your one-of Grass Energy in the deck, which allows us to be a little bit cheeky on that count there. 2 copies of Timer Ball. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Timer Ball personally. You could consider Great Ball. We are playing 20 total Pokemon in the deck, so Great Ball's not the worst idea. But because we have this Alolan Ninetales to search out the timers, pretty much you're putting yourself on a 75% chance of getting 1 stage 2 out just by flipping on the Timer Ball. So, and in those high roll situations, it's going to be absolutely nutty for you. So I think having at least 1 Timer Ball, you could even go for 1 Netball, 1 Timer Ball, 1 Great Ball if you're not too happy with the Timer Ball. But I think you need at least 1 copy just because you want to get it via your Ninetales when you're digging for these rare candies. Speaking of which, we're going to play 4 copies, got to max it out obviously. 4 copies of Ultra Ball as well, pretty standard. 2 copies of Choice Band, our math is hugely improved with the Water Ninetales on the Blacephalon, which I've already mentioned. Huge with your Larvitar, and I think it's also big with the Fairy Ninetales as well. It's just like having more Decidueyes on your board, basically, finding these Choice Bands, which is going to be great. Counter Gain is the item card that I've already mentioned earlier on, and how fantastic it is in this deck. Really, really fantastic with the Fairy Ninetales. It makes your attack literally just cost 1 fairy, which is really important for this deck. So as long as we're behind on prize cards, our attack costs are 1 colorless less. So it even means that we could use Swampert's Hydro Pump with a DCE counter gain. It would only do 80, but it's still a non-GX in the active. And again, we can hit for weakness on Blacephalon, which is a huge archetype. So this counter gain is a really nice one-off to have, especially because it's searchable via that Fairy Ninetales. And then 2 copies of Brooklet Hill as a stadium. I was really surprised to not see this in Shintaro's build, to be honest. He was playing 1 Field Blower and no stadiums, and I really think having physical stadiums is important right now because of Prism Star stadium cards, and also Brooklet Hill is great for getting you Vulpix in the early game. He was playing because he played 1 Field Blower and 1 Nest Ball, I was completely scratching my head why it wasn't just 2 Brooklet Hill. Because that sounds just so natural to me to be playing those, because you're playing the Mudkip and you're playing the Alolan Vulpix, so even though you're using Elm, you would love to find a Brooklet Hill in the same turn, and on the turns you want to use Lillie, or have to use Lillie, we have more outs to find basic Pokemon, so I think Brooklet is a natural include in here, and it does improve the consistency of this deck overall, as well as just bouncing stadiums in general. Then we're going to move on to the supporter cards. I'm going to play 1 copy of Tate and Liza. It can be a switch card, which I think is important for the deck, but it's also a shuffle card, so a little bit of extra consistency rather than just playing 1 switch or 1 escape rope. I feel like the Tate and Liza just fits a lot better here. Going to play 1 copy of Acerola as well. It's amazing with your Water Ninetales because you can just bounce and attach DC all over again and start swinging. Really set the opponent back a turn. But in general, when you can tank, Acerola is going to be great for you. 2 copies of Professor Elm's Lecture, so amazing as a new supporter card, letting you search your deck for 3 Pokemon with 60 HP or less. That's your Mudkips, your Rowletts, your Alolan Vulpixes, and even the Larvitar has 60 hit points as well, so incredible news. 2 copies of Guzma, I think we get away with just 2 because we are so spread focused, but at the same time we also have that GX attack from Decidueye to fall back on if we need to use more, and having 1 Tate and Liza is a shuffle draw card, so I'd prefer it to playing a 3rd Guzma, I think, just for consistency reasons. 3 copies of Lillie, still a nice early game option for us if you don't have access to Elm, or if you've already hit a decent amount of Pokemon with the amount of search we do have in the deck, that's quite possible. And in general, it's still going to draw us cards throughout the game. And we are also going to play 4 copies of Cynthia for some nice shuffle draw, just the best supporter we have right now. Got to max this one out. Onto the energy cards, it's a little bit all over the place, but we are going to play 1 copy of Super Boost. If everything's going well, if Ninetales is getting us into rare candies, we're going to get multiple stage 2s out. We're playing that Swampert as well as the Decidueye. Attaching this Super Boost onto either of them means that they can attack for 1 energy, and that's going to be a huge swing in the game, tempo-wise, and can keep us up in attachments. I think the combination of this Super Boost and the counter gain keep us attaching quite solidly throughout the game without too much pressure. And obviously the fact that we have Lille's, Larvitar, and the Water Ninetales all attacking for 1 DCE, I think we get away with it thanks to this addition. Just 1 copy of Grass Energy. Again, it's a little cheeky. I'm only playing 1 Netball, so we only really have 2 outs for this, but you don't actually attack with Decidueye all that much. This Grass is more of an option in here just for the GX attack a lot of the time. And then we're going to play 3 copies of Fairy Energy. Fairy Energy, obviously, really integral for your Alolan Ninetales to attack with, and 4 copies of DCE. I think it's important to max this card out, especially because now I'm playing the Water Ninetales as well, but again, important for your Decidueyes, important for your Lele's, Larvitar, and the Water Ninetales. I think all round it's going to be great, and even counter gain synergy with Swampert. I think it's an important card to be playing overall. So let's have a look at the list in full. It's a little all over the place. There are a few one-of and interesting counts going on here and there. I do think it is a little bit reliant on trying to get that 1 Swampert going to stop you clunking in the mid-game, especially with the low energy count that we're playing. But if that all starts rolling and the effect of Beacon and the effect of the Fairy Ninetales starts working, I think we can get into quite an Exodia style board state where we're just doing so much pinging each turn with the Decidueye, getting so much freebie damage and being able to place it wherever we want. It's really going to take effect on the opponent's board state, which is incredible. Looking at tech options, I think you can think about having a Shuckle GX in here. We are quite slow. We are trying to develop behind stuff and build our board from the back. Obviously, Beacon's going to be great for you tempo-wise, but Shuckle could also slow the opponent's attacks down and give you more time to get stuff going. Ditto Prism Star is something I've just sort of thought about. I've had it in here at one point, but the fact is you play like 1 or 0 Dartrix and you play 0 copies of Marshtomp anyway, so it would basically just be an extra Vulpix, and Vulpix is a better attack, so therefore it's a better lead than the Ditto anyway, so I don't think it's that usable. I think if you want to increase your Dartrix count, the Ditto becomes a viable option. Swampert I put as a tech option just to increase the count, just because, again, I could see it being a 2-0-2 or even a 2-0-1, just increase that Mudkip count because he is so integral to the deck. And also Tapu Koko could be an option. Obviously we're a spread deck, and having Flying Flip as an option could just be extra early game pressure for us, but I again think the Beacon is just so vital for our development that that's going to be more important. And the fact is Tapu Koko can't evolve up into a Decidueye and be free damage every turn, and we can't evolve up into a Ninetales and get us setting up, so it's a vital board space that's being taken up by that Tapu Koko there. Onto the matchup overview, I think Zoro Weavile is going to be a problem. Obviously, the Alolan Ninetales does have resistance to Dark, but we play so many abilities that the Weavile is probably going to be crunching through us quite quickly. Obviously, we do have the Larvitar to sort of counter them with, but we do only play 2 copies of Guzma at the end of the day, so they're not going to be feeding us Zoroarks throughout. Buzz Shrine, I think, will be awkward. Shrine decks in general, I think, aren't going to be great. We play a lot of GX Pokemon. We need to build into Decidueyes, otherwise our strategy is not online. I think with enough Decidueyes actually on the board, and now that we are playing Brooklet Hill, and if you can get them back in the matchup with your GX attack, you may be able to overcome them if you play your pings correctly to play around Sledgehammer turns and make sure you're just dealing with the Garbodors early or the Sneasels early on. You can be okay, but otherwise I think that could be awkward for you if they get enough like Trubbishes and Sneasels down in the early turns. They're going to build up their attackers too quickly for you to sort of ping them away, and they will be threatening. Spread Mally I think will be awkward because we are relatively slow. They'll have free reign on your board, to be honest, with a lot of Coco flips early and even building into things like Shining Arceus and stuff like that. I think there'll just be too much damage counters on the board for them to play around with Fairy Lele for us to deal with. Or sorry, Psychic Lele, if they have that. Or just use a big Necrozma GX to close the game by like turn 4 or something, because we don't really pose much of a threat in the early turns. We're just so worried about building our own board state. And of course the Malamar decks can also play Marshadow to completely shut down Beacon early on, and we got to pretty much cross our fingers to draw out of those sorts of hands. Larvitar Coco also going to be awkward. Similar reason for the Spread Mally. I think they're just given too much generosity and too much time to get free flying flips off. And they do play the Lele definitely, so they can start playing around with our damage counters. Sceptile I think will be slightly awkward. We are quite reliant on special energy cards, and overall that's one type coverage that we don't have is actually against grass, and they play so much healing that they might be able to pose a threat to us. And Magcargo GX, I think, although we are playing like a Swampert and a Alolan Ninetales, which is water type, I think that'll still be kind of awkward for us. Again, they have the luxury of time to build into their Omega combo of getting both Magcargos online in multiple counts, and they're going to start just getting too many energy on the board and taking knockouts turn by turn. That I can see that matchup being a bit of a threat to us, but other than that, I think we have good coverage type-wise that keeps us in the game against most things, and I think against the non-GX decks, we obviously have Decidueye to ping down the lower HP stuff, so I think this deck is versatile and could be very powerful. Here are my closing thoughts, though. Like I said, that type coverage, like we've got Larvitar for dark stuff, we've got Swampert and Alolan Ninetales, the water ones, for Blacephalon. We have the Fairy Ninetales that's good against other Ultra Beasts as well as good against like Rayquaza, and we have Decidueye's type coverage as well. So we have a lot of great type coverage, to be honest, to just give us a better time against certain matchups and give us answers in general. And also the fact that Decidueye is so flexible, and also the Ninetales spread attacks themselves are flexible, that we can really manage the game against pretty much any deck that we're up against and have a game plan against them just because of where the damage counters can all fall. We can play around beast rings, for example, altogether by just putting our spreads in correct places and then just taking 4 prizes all at once, for example, and they go straight from 6 to 2 or from 5 to 1, whatever you want, really. And that could be insane for you, completely cutting out a big part of their engine. But in general, that's all if everything goes swimmingly. That's all assuming that our Alolan Ninetales do evolve up and we get rare candies and we get our Decidueyes and we get Swampert rolling. That's all golden if it all comes off. I think this deck will absolutely hate early game judges and early game Marshadows. It's going to be a big no-no for the deck. If ever your beacon gets stopped and they KO it, that's one Vulpix that can't evolve into Ninetales. And we're just going into a low hand size, and ultimately our draw engine is just a 1-0-1 line, so it's not all that consistent. So I think that's going to be where this deck falls down. Insane when it gets rolling, but how many times does it get going? It's going to be weighing up if that's going to be worthwhile as a powerful deck in the meta right now. Overall, I think Decidueye Zoro is something I also want to look at. We've seen that partnership as well before. Obviously, that's more linear, more straightforward. The Decidueye is more sort of supplementary for the Zoroark in terms of hitting the active Pokemon for knockouts. But Zoroark can draw more cards in general. It's gained Elm, it's gained Ditto. It looks to be a lot more consistent than previously. And one of the big reasons Decidueye Zoroark previously didn't work was just because of Parallel City, and that's gone. So it's like playing a pre-rotation Deci Zoro without Parallel City in the list. So to me, that just sounds excellent, and it's another thing that I want to explore, because as I mentioned earlier on in the video, I'm a huge Decidueye fanboy. Let me know if you're a fan of this Decidueye Ninetales deck. Obviously, you know, a Worlds winner was piloting it, so it did go quite far in the tournament, but was it just the skill of the player? Does this have a lot of legs? What do you think about the list itself? How integral are those enhanced hammers that he played? What sort of matchups was he looking out for by inserting those into a deck that is already, you know, stage 1 and 2 focused? I'd love to hear your thoughts about this down below. Let me know what deck you want to see next from Lost Thunder. We're going to keep doing this until the set is out. And we can start playing on PTCGO. I think this will be one of the first ones I want to test out because it's so cool and interesting, and I basically just want to start using that Fairy Ninetales because I think it's absolutely busted. But that's enough of me rambling for today, guys. I'll see you guys in another video tomorrow. Cheers.